Don't, don't, don't believe the polls. Are political polls obsolete in the age of social media? Why did Trump win the presidency with majority electoral votes when the polls had him losing? Can social media have major influence on campaigns? Sometimes your instincts fail you and you must rely on data. But what if the data says one thing and the outcome is another? Political polls, the ghost in the machine. This is Counterpoint with Gerard McClendon. Are political polls obsolete in the age of social media? Can social media have major influence on campaigns? Political polls versus big data. Is there a ghost in the machine? I want to thank you all for watching Counterpoint. Give me a call at 844-777-9311. Twitter and Facebook comments to Gerard MC. At the Counterpoint today, we have Kathleen Murphy from the IllinoisPolicy.org. We have Andy Quinnell, Chairman, Munster Republican Central Committee and President, VRQ. And Matt Reardon, President of MCR Partners Limited. Welcome, you three, to the Counterpoint. Really appreciate it. You know, I was coming up with a lot of red references in reference to the bluing and redding of the United States. It looks like Donald Trump has won the presidency, and I'm still kind of trying to figure this thing out. More so than Clinton and Trump, though, let's talk about polls and polling being obsolete. Is it a thing of the past? There were several quote unquote reputable polling organizations that got it totally wrong. So, you three, I ask you, is polling obsolete? Who wants to start us off here? Yes, Kathleen.
I don't think it's a thing of the past. I think polls can be useful in not just in predicting the outcome of the race, but in determining how effective a messaging campaign is into a district to see if it moved the needle at all after you sent in mail pieces and ads. I think that in this case, pollsters consistently misidentified the voters that Trump was turning out. And I'm not sure what happened there. I think a lot of them are going to have to look at the methods that they're using and some of the operations, because their polls were not worth the paper that they were printed on. And I think another thing that happened was there did seem to be this silent majority who maybe didn't even want to tell a pollster how they were going to vote for fear of being stigmatized for whatever reason. So I think for whatever reason they didn't say one way or another. They got lumped into a group that maybe had voted for, was a likely Clinton voter. But when they went to the voting booth in that privacy, they went Trump.
So Andy, polls obsolete, so this is where I'm going with this. And I'm so glad that you teed it off here, Kathleen. When you look at landlines, cell phones, and email, where's the flaw when it comes to polling in those three forms of media?
Well, first off, it's people, you have to identify the voters. You have to identify likely voters, of course, as well. Then you also have to get them to answer. And you have to get them to give you truthful answers. I think a lot of times when they're calling and polling, they ask you all these questions down the line, what is your views on, on gun control, on economic development, whatever it might be. And then the last question they ask you is, if you were to vote today, would you vote for this candidate or that candidate? However, the answers that maybe they say they're going to vote for candidate A, but the answers they gave to the polling were more in tune with candidate B, and I don't think they really pick up on that. I don't think that, Trump identified a lot of voters, I believe, that were no pollsters were identifying, no pollsters were picking up. And, and I said this last week, his numbers had to be showing, his internals had to be showing something in Pennsylvania and Ohio and Michigan and all these other states where he was heading to. Mm-hmm. And I think Clinton's internals showed him the same things because they were chasing after him.
Okay. So this so-called hidden vote, it wasn't seen, and I got to go to you, Matt. You know, are traditional polls staring down the barrel of obsolescence now?
I think Kathleen hit the nail on the head when she said there's a purpose for this. And I think, and I've seen personally, a lot of it has to do with tracking of information. It's better to track a message and to find out if that message is resonating with people, and then you're able to grapple onto an issue. And we sat here 6 months ago, and I said a couple things. I said, Trump is the music man, he's a salesman, and he is at the cutting edge of using technology, and that would change the way campaigns are done. And I think that was proven in the fact that his outreach goes so far beyond any normal means of door knocking, ground game, mailings, and all of that. So that has an impact on the polls, because traditionally you're taking a representative sample of normal voters. Well, when you don't have normal voters voting, you have a problem.
Wow. When you don't have normal voters voting, and when you have normal voters not voting. Kathleen, you got a comment?
Or when you're turning out disaffected voters, which they have not pulled a primary ballot. You know, that's how pollsters a lot of times determine whether they're a likely Democrat, likely Republican voter. If they haven't pulled a ballot, you're not even reaching out to them.
Or they haven't even voted in, you know, because they're also looking at likely voters. So maybe they haven't voted in the last 2 cycles or 3 cycles. So now you're sitting here going, okay, you know, we're going to write them off. And those are the ones that actually came out and voted, because they're the disenfranchised.
Yeah, you know, it's funny. Kathleen and I were on an ABC show, and it was interesting. I tried to call it. I called it wrong. And Kathleen, during the show, she was so nice to me. She was so nice. She didn't rub it in. She just said, "Not so fast, Gerard." And what's interesting about this is did social media, the internet, apps, the sensationalism of all of this, did that drive the electorate? Here we have a candidate who said, I'm gonna self-fund. And within that self-funding, the candidate pretty much gets on CNN every night by sending tweets. Kathleen?
I think it benefited him, his use of Twitter. People are kind of really thirsty for some transparency in government and some accessibility, and this is part of the contrast between him and Hillary Clinton. People like that openness in his communication style, that he would put something on Twitter, they could respond to it, he could retweet them, which again was him going to the voter and saying, look, I respect you. They ignore you, but I respect you. That reinforced that message from him. I do think he should continue that open style of communication in his presidency, whether it's town hall forums. I mean, I think maybe somebody should edit his tweets, maybe run it past Melania or somebody before he sends it out.
Do you think he should maybe use email?
I think email, I think a town hall, a town hall.
His own private server?
I think that private server.
Yeah, put it in the basement of
I'm from Illinois, so I'm like a step behind you guys in Indiana. I think a town hall forum where he can host it and people can give feedback, and or even if he hosts it, Pence hosts it, the kids, Ivanka, you know, somebody is on there communicating with the American people and can receive feedback and respond to that. I think that that has been a hallmark of his campaign, and he should continue
So this
it.
is interesting, because when you talk to app developers, when you talk to people who create code on the internet or create new software, if you have an open source network, you have more people that can contribute to making the software close to perfect. When you have a closed network, it may be safe, but you're limiting the talent. Trump does something genius where he says, I'm going to open this thing up. I'm going to let everyday individuals tweet and retweet me. And here's the crazy part. A lot of Trump opponents were retweeting Trump's quotes. You know, so it's like...
So they were doing advertising for him.
Right,
Publicity
name
of
recognition,
promoting.
biggest barrier to entry.
I want to look at something quickly here, you guys. Let's look at Cambridge Analytica, all right? So Cambridge Analytica is a data firm that the Donald Trump campaign hires. They paid Cambridge Analytica $5 million to find the hidden votes. This is something that the Clinton campaign pretty much ignored, and they took for granted those states that went red from being blue during the Obama 2012 election. So what they did, and I'm coming to you with this, Matt Reardon, what they did at Cambridge Analytica for the Trump campaign was they micro-targeted and they took micro populations of likely and unlikely voters who may go toward Trump. Is this going to be a trend from now on with consulting firms, with big data firms? Is this the changing of the game in politics, Matt Reardon?
I think where Trump was at in the campaign, he knew he had to get down to that level. He knew he had to find those people who didn't vote. I do have to laugh. It's not often I hear the word Republican and disenfranchised in the same sentence, unless it was that Republican disenfranchised voters. But what Andy said is exactly correct. There was a unit of people that had conservative views that decided, why not try this guy? So I joked around last time and I said, you know what, we're not electing the prom king. We did.
Yeah.
And he used the social media accordingly. So with all that, and it was real genius on his part and his team to continue with Twitter and everything else in the face of, hey, you know what, we don't do things that way. And he says, you know what, I'm going to do it that way because people sit in their living room and they vote for the voice and they vote for the dancer and they're used to immediate feedback. And I'm going to lay something else on you. You know what that platform also allowed? It allowed people to get out feelings. Yeah. And feelings are not facts. Mm-hmm. And it doesn't matter. And I can't convince you of your feelings are different. All I can do is say what mine are. And I gave that platform for everybody to get their feelings out there.
Yeah.
Whether you liked them or not, whether you believe their feelings or not, whether it made you uncomfortable or not, it was that platform to allow people to participate.
Kanye West quote, hate me or love me, but feel something,
Yep.
you know? And I think that's a very interesting point. You know, I want to go to you, Andy, on this question. Are political polls obsolete? But I want to go further with that. Should a candidate in the future, from this day forward, say, you know what? We're not, even if we're down by 5 or 10 points or up by 5 or 10 points, should we totally ignore the polls? I got about 1 minute before this segment ends.
No, I don't think you should ignore the polls. I mean, polling is not obsolete. I think, again, these polls were not targeting the right voters. They weren't targeting the voters that were going to come out and vote, and they were not going after the voters that were not identified because maybe they hadn't voted in the last couple of cycles or whatever it may have been, or they were newly registered, and they were registered because they were on the Trump train. You know, they were there moving forward. You know, I don't think that you should discount the polls. And polls can be wrong a lot. I think, you know, I think Kathleen said it. Some people were, I don't want to say embarrassed, but they were afraid to say, hey, I'm voting for Donald Trump because the backlash that they might get. So they'd say, you know, I'm not going to tell you who I'm voting for, or I'm undecided. Or maybe they even say, hey, I'm voting for your candidate. I'm voting for Hillary Clinton, but they really weren't.
When we come back, we're going to talk about do polls influence? So think about that as we take a break. Trump wins the hidden vote. Are political polls obsolete in the age of social media? Political polls versus big data. Is there a ghost in the machine? Thanks for watching Counterpoint. We'll be back shortly. Tweet me, post on Instagram, or send me a message on Facebook. Let's start the conversation. Your voice is important on Counterpoint. Are political polls obsolete in the age of social media? Trump wins the hidden vote. Political polls versus big data. Is there a ghost in the machine? Call me, 844-777-9311. Twitter and Facebook me at Gerard MC, Kathleen Murphy, Andy Quinnell, Matt Reardon. Join us at the Counterpoint. Thanks for sticking around for part 2. So, we watch all of these news networks. We read newspapers, magazines. We get emails. We're watching Twitter, Facebook, Instagram feeds. People are Snapchatting. They're hearing information about what Quinnipiac said, what Real Clear Politics said, what Politico was saying, what Pew Institute is saying. Are people influenced by polls? Gerard McClendon sits at home ingesting, digesting all of this social media stuff, I see 4 of the most prominent political poll organizations that say vote, or that the vote is going this way, plus or minus 3%. Do they influence the way a person votes?
I think so. Just the same way that getting vote results from one coast influences that in another coast. So whether you were thinking about voting for somebody and you're like, yeah, I'm not going to go do it because. And I think that does have an impact on some people that really weren't committed to voting. Or maybe they were and they're like, I'm going to do it this time, but maybe not. And then the candidate lost and I'm like, forget it. Or I'm going to go to the grocery store and change it. I think it can have an impact. I can tell you what, if I'm somebody running for office, I want to be the person up in the polls.
Yeah.
I would not want to be the person down in the polls, because the old rally cry is, hey, we're down in the polls, so let's go outwork them. So you're using this psychology nonsense. But if you're talking to somebody sitting at home and they hear information about Hillary Clinton already won, or Donald Trump is winning, you're like, well, I'm not going to go do it.
He doesn't need my vote, or she doesn't need my vote, or whatever. And and I think that's part of the problem with the polls as well. And I think, with Hillary showing that she was up, I'm sure a lot of the Trump supporters were saying, well, wait a minute, everybody I'm talking to is voting for Trump. How can she be up? And so it tries to I don't want to say disenfranchise them, but it almost is kind of a way of keeping them away from voting.
Yeah.
I think it impacts turnout, is what I was going to say. It's turnout. If you think that it's not going to make a difference, you're less likely to go. Or on the flip side,
but you have to remember the down ballot
races.
races. I mean, you're not just going to vote for one person.
Very true.
Right. So Kathleen, why didn't Clinton concentrate on her base in the last 3 to 4 weeks? I mean, what happened, or last 2 months, really? Was it just hubris? Was it overweening pride that said, you don't need to go to Iowa, you don't need to go to Wisconsin, you don't need to go to
if you remember
Michigan.
what happened in those last 2 to 3 weeks, the Access Hollywood tapes came out. I mean, he plummeted with women. I think I can only speculate because I don't know, but I think partly it was, I've got this. I have got this. And then, of course, James Comey drops the bomb into the race 10 days ahead, changes the whole trajectory of the race. His momentum was, you could see it. He just flip over 10 days. So I think she thought she had it, and she might as well, concentrate on locking it up in the toss-up states.
I think, Gerard, too many people told her, you got this. Ready for this one? How can you possibly lose? It's impossible. And guess what? That's why they play the game.
Yeah.
That's right.
Do it.
That's right. And that's, wow. Kathleen embarrassed me during.
Now, did you have to eat your hat? Was that the
show?
Did you?
Come on, man. I ate more than
what
that.
was the bet, by the way? I want to know.
I had red tie on and everything. She
I did see
retweeted
the
all my
tie.
stuff. I'm
I
like,
did.
oh man. But you know what?
I love the tie, by the way.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Sometimes you have to get humbled. And especially, I don't care if you're up by 10 points. When the country is shifting, especially after an 8-year stint with Barack Obama, things could possibly go the other way. And I think someone or several people in the Democratic camp, they didn't see it coming.
Well, and they should have seen it coming, though, in the sense of enthusiasm. Her voters, her supporters, were not that enthusiastic. You'd see these Trump rallies with 20,000 people at it, and she'd get 1,000, and so there wasn't any enthusiasm there. That right off the bat would have kind of said to me, what can we do to increase the enthusiasm, because that enthusiasm is going to go back to voter turnout.
You know what's interesting about that? In Chicago, they had continuing the Bernie Sanders movement after he was out, and I went because I think those things are really interesting, even though I'm on the other side of the aisle. And they had their sights set on the DNC because that was coming up, on Hillary Clinton. There was nothing about Republicans, nothing about Trump or any of the remaining. Democrats really were unhappy with her. They were unhappy with the results of the primary, and I think they kind of went, fine, I'll vote for her. But it was really not there. Like you said, and that hurts turnout too. I think.
Well, and to go along with that, I think they feel like the Bernie Sanders vote was stolen from them
Absolutely.
after the
was.
WikiLeaks.
Should she?
Oh, I'm going to
should-
say this. All after all the boo-hooing, Trump won.
Yeah.
He got his people to the polls, and they went out and they voted, and that's it.
And
now
you-
you can argue, people arguing over, oh, well, she won the popular vote. I don't care.
Well, and they all know the rules of the game before they get in
Well,
there.
Yeah.
You have to win the electoral.
I kind of chuckled, and the irony is perfect in that the very rules that Trump besmirched are the very rules that he has used, and that the reason he's the president. I love the irony of it. It's like, guy, you spend all that time bad-mouthing the system, and the system works.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Art of the deal.
They're the system. It's the system they all have in place and has worked for them in the past, and now he wins that. Wins via that
Used
system,
it-
and
he
now
used
they're
it in
all
his
mad about
favor.
it. As the other
Truthful
side.
hyperbole wins.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's the charismatic that can get you to listen to a point more so than a person that has soundness. I'm a professor. So if I come to class and just drone to students, they're gonna fall asleep, they're gonna leave class early at the break. I gotta come in there with the fire. Regardless of how boring school finance might be or school law, which can be very boring. But I got to come in there with some case studies and some news reports and some stories that are a little juicy, so it keeps them interested. So we can't count out the charismatic component. Maybe that's, wow, I wonder, can the charismatic component be used in a poll? That might be something that will come up in 2020 possibly.
Who would you want to hang out with?
Yeah.
Who would you
Have
rather
a
hang out
beer
with?
with.
Yeah,
well, Trump doesn't drink.
yeah,
Who would you rather have dinner with?
Kanye or Kim.
Yeah.
Right. I think I know the answer to that.
So let's look at this. Is social media now mandatory to launch and to sustain and finish a political campaign?
I think I think so, absolutely. It's giving the mainstream media a run for its money. In dominance and influence, it rivals mainstream media, probably is more influential than mainstream media.
Social media has done wonders for people, because if you don't like what you're getting from the network news, you could go out and find different areas, different media sources, whether it's on social media or if it's through the internet. And you have different sources now. People aren't relying on ABC, CBS, NBC, and PBS too, I guess we should say. And,
Thank you.
And by the way, and all the cable news programs, they're relying to find the news that they want to see. I heard this.
Regardless of whether it's credible,
Right.
Regardless of whether it's credible
or
or
it's
not.
credible relative.
I'm back to, this platform of feelings aren't facts.
Yeah.
And that's what this does. So I'm not going to go talk to Channel 2 News guy. I'm going to get on my Facebook page and I'm going to go, and I'm really mad, and I'm going to let it out there. I'm going to tell my friends, and I'm going to put it on Twitter, and I'm going to blow it up. And hopefully somebody else does. And that engages a whole different kind and section of people that really, they didn't read the newspaper, and I didn't read the Wall Street Journal, and I really don't know. And boy, you know what? I know the guy can't build a wall, but he said it, and that really makes me feel weird.
Yeah.
You know what? No, because he got out, and he was a salesman, and he sold it, and he did what he had to do to win. And I believe this about Trump. I believe his desire for success will amount to good times in the United States of America because of his hubris.
Wow.
Because he is that way. He does not want to be embarrassed.
When you got a chip on your shoulder,
And
you got something to prove.
he has proven time and time again that that's his modus operandi. And I think that you're going to see that. I think you see enough people that are going to follow that. And you know what? He's their guy.
He should have kept that casino in Gary, Indiana.
Yeah, now we could talk about that on another show.
So you know what's interesting?
Don't get Matt started on economic
Yeah.
development.
So as we were, man, I wish I could keep you guys for 2 or 3 more shows. What's interesting is that the polls didn't count on 8% of the black vote going to Trump. Whoa, talk about the hidden vote. and what, 32% of the Hispanic vote going to Trump? Nobody saw that. Cambridge Analytica saw it, but nobody else really saw it. And the what, 80, 90 million that didn't vote?
Yeah.
Whoa, that's big. Give me a closing word, Andy.
Well, I think Trump identified voters. Matt and I know a guy who calls into the radio station. We're at it quite a bit. And this guy 18 months ago was, Trump's going to be the next president. He's a retired union steel worker. And I said, there's no way this is going to happen. And this guy called it. And I said at that time, if Trump wins, it's not going to be the guys, the normal Republicans that get him elected. It's going to be the guys like the manufacturing, they lost their job. This guy, he's a retired steel worker, but he talks about, packing up his equipment and shipping it off to China.
Skin in the game. Kathleen, did you know that this was going to happen?
When I saw those exit polls call it women's intuition, I thought this is it. We're electing Donald Trump, and I wasn't always with him, as I mentioned on the show, but I at that point in the afternoon, I kind of went, I think he's in.
And I saw the look on your face.
I know, I was
day,
nervous to say it, but something said, no, do it.
And this lady, Kathleen Murphy,
You were
has
like, she's
intuition.
crazy.
Matt Reardon, final word, man.
I didn't see that coming, but I will tell you this. I have very high expectations of my president.
Oh.
Right? Like I had of Barack Obama, and like I had of George Bush, and so on and so forth.
And they're
so
the president
now,
for all
you're
the
the president for all the people. So get to your job. You said you're going to take care of some business, so you better take care of it. Because you know what?
Thank you, Matt.
In 4 years is a short time.
I got to move forward. Man, thanks to my guests, Kathleen Murphy, Andy Quinnell, Matt Reardon. Hey, do you think political polls are obsolete? Was Donald Trump's data better than the experts? Call me, 844-777-9311. Facebook, Twitter me, Gerard MC. Thank you for watching Counterpoint. Stay positive. I need you to keep your head up and always be encouraged to voice your counterpoint. Have a good week.